Hello viewers, welcome to K Diagnostics, Dio here. Today we have a 2014 VW Jetta. The problem on this vehicle is the right rear window is broken. So in this video I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the right rear door window on this vehicle. Okay, so now let's look at the broken window and then I'll show you how to remove the door panel so we can install the new window. So now let's look at the door. All right, so here we are. As you can see, the owner has put a blanket over here. So the window is broken. And as you can see, we have a couple pieces of a broken window over here. Okay. There's a window here, but nothing over here. So I'm gonna open the door. So let's get this blanket removed. So there are a bunch of pieces over here of the old broken window. So now what we need to do is we're gonna remove this door panel. Okay. Actually, before we remove the door panel, I'm gonna clean up these pieces over here of the broken glass. I'll get everything cleaned off. I'm gonna get a sharp vac so I can clean all these pieces, and then I'll bring you guys back up so we can remove the door panel. Alright, so everything is cleaned. So now let's remove this door panel. So in order to remove this door panel, we're gonna have to remove this door trim. This trim over here just pops off. After we remove that, we're gonna remove the door switch, the window switch over here. This switch just pries off. We're gonna pry it from this point. We're gonna pry it off and then disconnect it. Once we disconnect it, we're gonna get it out of the way. And there is another torque screw over here that we have to remove. After we remove that, we're gonna remove another small torque screw under here. Okay, that one, just right there below the courtesy light. So once we remove this screw, then we're gonna pop off the door panel. Okay, so after we remove all these 3 screws, we're gonna pry the door panel out. After we pry the door panel out, we're gonna remove this door handle cable from the back and the switch, this lock and unlock switch over here. We're gonna disconnect the electrical connector of it, and then we're gonna get the panel out of the way. Okay, so now let's do that. Let's remove this door panel. So this trim just pops off. We're just gonna pry it out slowly. Just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna get it out of the way. So we got the door trim removed. So now we're gonna remove the door handle cover. Okay, so this bottom cover over here has to come out so we can access the 2 bolts that are down here that hold the door panel on the door. Now, I said we were gonna pry the switch up, but I just realized that this part of the handle stays on the panel. So it's the bottom part of the handle that comes off. So basically, we're gonna get our trim remover tool and pry this just like that. Okay. So the bottom piece of the handle is gonna come out. So as you can see, it came out. So I'm gonna put it out of the way. So over here we have 2 bolts that we have to remove. There's one over here and there's another one down here. I'm gonna bring you guys over here so I can show you these bolts. So here are the bolts that we have to remove. We're gonna remove this one over here. This is a T30, and then there's another one up here that we gotta remove. There's another one in there. Okay, and then we're gonna disconnect this electrical connector over here for the switch. Okay, so actually let's do that first. So there's a little latch over here that we have to push down. So right there. So the switch is disconnected. So now let's remove these little 2 torque bolts. So here comes the first bolt. So we're gonna get it out of the way. So now we're gonna remove the second one, the one down here. Oh well, that's okay. So we dropped the other one in the panel, but we will find it when we remove the panel. So now we're gonna remove the bolt that's down here. And this one is a T15, a little T15 torque. So now here comes this one. So at this point, we got all these bolts removed. This door panel has 3 bolts. We got all of them removed. So now we're gonna pry the door panel out. Okay, so I'm gonna use this plastic prying tool. I'm gonna insert it over here and then pry the door panel out. So now let's do that. Actually, the bolt that we dropped inside the panel just fell down. So I'm gonna put it out of the way. We're just gonna put it over there. So basically now we're gonna pry this right there. So as you can see, the door panel is pried off the door. So now we're gonna get our fingers up here and pry the top of the door panel up. So right there, the door panel is coming out. So now I'm gonna bring you on this side so I can show you the electrical connectors that I'm gonna disconnect. All right, so now we're gonna disconnect this electrical connector over here. So right there, this little electrical connector for the speaker. Now the cable for the handle already came off. And then we're gonna disconnect the electrical connector for the locking switch over here. So the electrical connector for the locking switch has a little tab that I'm gonna push down. And then right there. So this panel has plastic tabs that hold it on the door. Okay, so the other tabs fell down, so I'm gonna make sure that I can put them back on the panel. Okay, so we got everything disconnected. This cable over here, this cable hooks, it hooks over here on the handle. There's a hook over here where the cable goes into. Okay, I hope you guys can see what I'm showing you. This cable goes in here. So this is how it goes. The cable is gonna go inside this little hole right there, and then it's gonna go in here. Okay, so it goes like that. Okay, and then it goes on a little bracket over here that holds it down. Okay, so that's pretty easy. So now we're gonna get the panel out of the way. So now that we got the panel out of the way, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do next. So the door panel is removed. So now we're gonna remove this inner panel. So to remove this inner panel, I'm gonna release the cable first from it, and I'm gonna disconnect the speaker. The speaker connector has 2 tabs on each side, and then we're gonna pry. We're gonna pry these. Okay, so we're gonna push these grommets off. All right. So now I'm gonna undo these 3 bolts for the window motor. So here comes the motor. So I'm gonna disconnect its electrical connector. So this has tiny little tabs on each side. All right, so there are two little tabs on each side of this connector that I had to push up so I could disconnect the window motor. So the motor is removed. So I'm gonna put it over here. So now we can now remove these bolts to remove this panel. So we got all the bolts for this inside panel removed. So now we're gonna pry this. We're gonna pry this out. So we're gonna push it a little bit this way. So now I'm gonna feed this wiring harness through this, through this little hole over here. So there is a electrical connector up here that I had to disconnect for the locking mechanism on the door. So now the entire window regulator comes out. Now, I didn't have to remove this window regulator because once I cleaned off everything, installing the new window was going to be pretty easy. I was just going to feed the new window through, and then it comes and sits over here on this yellow plastic holder. Okay, now I removed this because I'm going to clean off the inside of the door. The inside of the door has a lot of pieces of the broken glass, so I removed this so I could clean off everything in the door, and then we're going to put this back together so we can install the new window. Okay, so now let's clean this. So I'm going to show you how much crap we have inside the door before we clean this. Do you see that? We have a bunch of pieces of the broken glass in here, so we got to clean this off first. So now we're going to turn on our shop vac. All right, so check that out. As you can see, the inside of the door is cleaned. So now we're gonna install the window. So now the next step is gonna be removing this little side glass. So this piece over here has to come off so we can have enough room to install the new window, okay? So to get this piece removed, we're gonna have to remove these two grommets so we can get access to the two bolts. There are two torque bolts inside here that hold this support down on the door, okay? So we're gonna undo those. So right in here, there's a bolt. Okay, so we got the first one removed. So now we're going to remove the second one. So we're going to do the same thing. We have to be careful not to drop it. So we removed the second one. All right, so we removed these two bolts. So now we're going to remove this gasket over here. So we're going to pry this up. So right there, this gasket is removed. So we're going to get this out of the way. We're going to remove this seal over here. There is a little plastic tab on this side that holds this seal in place. So we're going to lift this up, and then we're going to remove two Phillips screws up here. I'm going to bring you here so I can show you these two Phillips screws that we're going to remove so we can remove this side glass. So we do have two Phillips screws over here. There's one right here, and then there's another one up here. Okay, so we're gonna remove these two so we can get this side glass removed. So now let's do that. Alright, so this piece comes out. So we're gonna get this out of the way. Alright, so we removed the piece that goes back here. So now we're gonna push this side out. So I'm gonna remove this glass first. So here comes this little side glass. Alright, so I pushed this bar on the side. So basically what you do after undoing these two bolts down here, you're gonna pry the seal, the top of the seal, so this whole housing over here up, and then pry this bar out. So right now we should be able to slide the glass inside the door. So as you can see, the glass now can come all the way down. So we're just gonna sit the glass down there. So right there. So now at this point I can push back this little rod over here. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna have to install the small glass first. Alright guys, so I got the small glass installed. I'm gonna bring you on this side so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so just like that. So at this point I'm making sure that the seal is sitting well around the glass. Right, so that's good. So now I can actually line up the glass in the glass rail. So right there. Yeah.
I'm just getting the sprinter seats that I was told to put.
Oh, okay, yeah, right there in the battery room.
Oh, sweet. Okay. I'll pull it in here, then I'll go flex it out.
So everything looks good. The seals are sealing around the glass. So now let's come on this side so we can install the two tiny torque bolts that hold this bar on the door. Alright guys, so we have tightened these two bolts that hold this bar in place. As you can see, the seal is sitting properly, so the gasket around the window is sitting properly. So now we're going to lift the window and align it on the rail so the window can go up and down easily. So I'm going to hold the window up. I'm going to use some duct tape so we can hold the window up. After we hold the window up, we're going to put everything back together. So we're going to hold the window up like this. Actually, I want to show you this opening here first. I hope you guys can see this little hole on the window. So this hole is going to go on the window regulator. Okay, so there is a, let me see. So I hope you guys can see that. So here on the regulator, this hole over here, the hole on the regulator has to line up with the hole, with this hole over here. So this hole on the window, and then there is a pin. There's a pin that we're gonna have to insert. I have this pin over here. So this little plastic pin. So this plastic pin is gonna go between the regulator here, and the window. Okay. So that's what holds the window on the regulator. So let's lift this up. We're gonna hold it up with this duct tape. So this duct tape is gonna hold the window up. All right, so as you can see, the window is held up by these dark tips. So now we're gonna install the window regulator. So at this point, what I'm doing is the reverse process of the removal process, okay? So this is gonna go through here. Alright, so we have fed the cable through this opening here. So now we should be able to reinstall So now we should be able to install the bolt for the inner door panel. Alright, so I got all the bolts started. So now we're going to tighten them. Okay, so we got all the bolts for the inner panel tightened. So now we're gonna install the window motor. Alright, so we're gonna reconnect it first. Alright. So this window motor only goes in one way, so there's only one way you can install it. So now we're going to tighten the bolts for it. Alright. So right now, the next step is going to be lowering down the hole on the window regulator all the way down to this hole over here. We're going to have to line up this hole with the hole on the window regulator that holds the window on the regulator. Once the hole on the regulator lines up over here, we're going to insert this pin, this little plastic pin that holds the window on the regulator. So I'm gonna bring the window switch over here so we can lower the regulator. Alright, so I can see the hole of the mount on the regulator lined up with this hole. So now I'm going to lower the window. So I'm going to remove these dark tips so we can lower the window. Alright guys, so I have installed the pin that holds the window on the window regulator. I'm gonna bring you down here so I can show you the pin, how it's installed, and after that we're gonna verify our repair. We're gonna roll the window up and down using the switch on the master switch over there on the driver's side. We're gonna roll it up and down, and after that, if everything looks good, we're gonna reinstall the door panel and everything else. So I'm gonna bring you here so we can check out the pin. Alright, so I'm gonna show you the pin that I have installed. So if you look inside there, you see that yellow piece? So that's the regulator. And in there, there is a little pin that holds the window on the window regulator. Okay, so it's installed. Everything looks good. So now let's try our repair. Let's roll the window up and down using the master switch on the driver's side. So as you guys saw, the window can go up and down with the master switch, so we're good to go. So now the next step is going to be installing the side cover that covers this small window over here, this small glass. So this is going to go over here. So this one has 2 Phillips screws. These are the screws that I showed you earlier. So we're gonna tighten these small Phillips screws. Alright, so everything is coming back together slowly and surely. So now we're gonna install the seal that goes up here. So this is gonna go right here. Alright, so this seal is installed. So now we're gonna install this little rubber grommet over here. Alright, so now the next step is gonna be installing the door panel. Alright, so as I'm installing the door panel, I'm gonna make sure I reconnect the electrical connector for the speaker and the electrical connector for this locking switch over here. Alright, so I have reconnected this door locking switch and the speaker. I reconnected the electrical connectors of them, and I also reconnected the cable for the door handle. I showed you earlier how to disconnect the cable and disconnect the switches. So putting them back together is the reverse process of the removal process. So it's so easy to install these switches. You just make sure they line up and then push them in, okay? So everything looks good. So now I'm gonna position the panel up here. And then I'm gonna connect the switch down here, the window switch. So as everything is lined up, we're just gonna tap the door panel inward. So everything looks good. There's no gaps. So now I'm gonna put the bolt that hold the door panel on the door. Remember, there was one over here, one down here, and a third one down over here below this courtesy light. So now I'm gonna install those bolts. Alright, so I tightened these two bolts. So now I'm gonna install the door handle cover. So this cover over here, so I'm gonna make sure that it's lined up. So right there. So everything is coming back together. So now the next step is gonna be reinstalling the door trim, the trim that goes over here. So this trim is gonna go this way. So right there, the door trim is installed. Okay, so I'm gonna close the door. Let's open it. Close, open. So let's roll the window down. Right there. Let's roll the window up. Perfect. We got it fixed, guys. So let's go halfway. All the way down. Up. Good. All right. So this is fixed. Now we have a window that's installed and it goes up and down. So we're gonna have a happy customer. Alright, so now let's wrap up this video. Alright guys, so as you guys can see, we have installed a window on this door. There wasn't a window here, the window was broken. We removed the door panel, we cleaned inside the door panel, we cleaned all the pieces of the broken glass. We installed the new window, and right now the window goes up and down nicely. Remember before, the owner of the vehicle only had a blanket over here, okay? So this is fixed. let me remove this. I'm going to remove this piece of paper here. Okay, so this over here is the part number of the window. The part number is FD23592. Okay, so this is fixed, guys. As you guys can see, the window is installed. It rolls up and down, so we're good to go. I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, give it a thumb down. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box. If this is your first time here, subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.